Alright guys, and welcome to today's video. This is a video I've wanted to do for a while, but in order for me to do it properly, I had to actually go through it myself and actually test myself to see how much body fat I could lose in a week. And it just so happened that Ibiza was approaching, so I thought, why not do this the week before I go to Ibiza? So this is the situation. You've got a holiday coming up in a week, or a photo shoot, or whatever it is. You just need to look good as possible in 1 week and get rid of that fat. So you need to sit down, you need to have a plan. Now hopefully you guys should roughly know what your maintenance calories are, and that's basically how many calories you need to consume in order for you to just basically stay the same, to maintain your current condition. Now I would say for me it's roughly anywhere between 3,000 and 3,250. I'm gonna go for the higher end one. So 3,250 is the amount of calories I need in order for me to stay the same weight based upon all the activity I'm doing and my training and so on. So I'm gonna take a percentage off that and put myself into a deficit. Now I would say anywhere between 0 to 10% deficit from that would be small, which would be a decent deficit if I was to start a cut. If I was going to go anywhere between 10 and 20%, that's quite a moderate deficit. If I was going to take 20% or more off that maintenance number, that's going to be quite steep, that's going to be quite aggressive. And the problem with aggressive cuts is obviously you run the risk of losing muscle mass. And that's something we don't really want to do, but at the same time, we want to try and lose as much body fat as possible. So it's kind of like how much muscle mass are you prepared to lose? For me, obviously, I would understand that doing this aggressive cut, I'm going to lose a bit of size, but I'm intrigued to know how much body fat I'm going to lose. So I'm going to go for 20%. So I'm going to take 20% away from 3,250, my maintenance. That 20% is around 650 calories. So take that 650 calories away from 3,250, and that will leave me with 2,600 calories. Next, we're gonna go on to protein intake. I would normally say to maximize muscle hypertrophy, you wanna go 2.2 grams per total kilogram of body weight, but because the deficit's gonna be quite aggressive, I really wanna try and preserve as much muscle mass as possible, so I'm gonna go for 2.5 grams per total kilograms of body weight, which should leave me at around 230 grams, so I wanna get at least 230 grams of protein per day. Next, we're gonna go on to fat. Fat intake, I would have or suggest anywhere between 0.5 and 0.7 grams per total kilograms of body weight. I'm gonna go for 0.6, so that gives me 55.2. And then whatever I have left over is gonna be carbohydrates. Now this is something I need to discuss because it's quite important. The more calories which you consume on a day-to-day basis, i.e. the faster your metabolism, the easier it's gonna be for you to place yourself in quite a significant deficit. Whereas if you're eating less, it becomes harder, it becomes more complicated. So let's say, for example, if you're the type of person, like me, who's consuming 3,000 calories or more, it's easy just to create a deficit because you've got a lot of calories to take away from. Whereas if you're the type of person, let's say, for example, on a day-to-day basis, you're doing all this training, you're doing all this cardio, whatever you're doing at the moment, but you're just consuming 2,000 calories. How do you then place yourself in a further 20% deficit? Okay, that's quite a lot. Right, 20% of 2,000 is 400. So you're gonna take away 400 calories from your already pretty low calorie intake and you'll place yourself in a deficit. You'll be consuming 1,600 calories on a day-to-day basis. That is gonna be quite tough. For these people, as I always say this to people who are consuming 2,000 calories or less, you shouldn't be worried about losing fat. It's quite clear that fat loss probably isn't even occurring. What we need to focus on is boosting your metabolism, get your body used to eating more. Because further down the line, it's going to be a lot easier for you to lose body fat. A few other things about fat loss, which I feel like I need to talk about as well. Fat loss is going to be very dependent upon, first of all, the individual, how much fat they have to begin with. So if someone is very fat and all of a sudden they just start on a cut, they can lose fat very quickly. Whereas somebody who's very lean, sub 10%, the amount of fat they lose isn't going to be that much. But that being said, if a very lean person loses 1 pound of fat, under 10%, they can look a hell of a lot different by losing that 1 pound of fat. Whereas someone who loses 1 pound of fat but they're already overweight, it doesn't really look that great. Well, it doesn't look that different, put it that way. They could lose 5 pounds of fat and still not see much of a difference compared to that lean person. Also, the fat loss is very dependent upon where you are within the fat loss or cutting cycle. So if you start off your cutting cycle, you could actually lose quite a lot of fat to begin with, but obviously when it comes to the end of your cut, it's harder and harder to lose further fat. So if you're doing this, you're trying to lose as much body fat in a week. If you're going straight from a bulk or maintenance and doing this aggressive cut, you're gonna see a lot of fat loss. Whereas if you've already been cutting for, say for example, 6 weeks, 8 weeks or 12 weeks, if you do something like this for 1 week, it's not gonna have as big of an impact. So I'll need to ask myself now, how am I gonna place myself in that 650 calorie deficit? One option is I could just continue to eat what I'm already eating, 3,250 calories, and figure out a way how I can burn an extra 650 calories on top of my rigorous training session and walking to the gym and back, which is pretty unlikely. I'd rather just not do that. The other option would be to just cut down my calories, so just drop my calories by 650, which for me is the easiest thing to do. I'm busy, I'm already walking to the gym and back. To add another 40, 50 minute cardio session just walking is not something I really want to do, and plus I run the risk of just doing too much. For most people, it's just usually a combination of both. You just reduce your calorie intake and just find a way of being more active, doing more walking, whatever it might be. Now the issue is for those people who aren't consuming much already, so let's say for example someone who's consuming 2,000 calories, I really do not want them to be consuming less. Okay, you're not going to be placing yourself in a position, if you're consuming 1,600 calories a day, to have a good workout and to maintain much muscle mass. So for those people, I would really try and recommend that you just keep your calorie intake the same. Don't take away any more food from your calorie intake, and just find a way how you can burn an extra 400 calories. Okay, so that is doable. You are gonna have to spend a solid 40 minutes or so on the treadmill, but I'd much prefer you guys do that than drop your calories further. Now in terms of my training sessions, they're not gonna change too much because my goal is to maximize as much size as possible, and that is basically the training which I'm doing. But I obviously won't be able to handle huge amounts of volume. So what I do is I just pull back on the volume which I normally do. So a lot of the programs which I follow are the ones which I put together in the Athlete app, which are available on my website. And the thing with these, as you progress on a week-to-week basis, so on week 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, the volume increases, so there's more sets, there's more reps, there's more drop sets, and things like that. So I would not do one of those programs on week 3 or week 4 because it's just too much. Okay, I'm gonna be in the gym for too long. I'm just gonna gas out very quickly. So I would probably just do week 1 of any of those programs where the volume was at its lowest. But I'm still gonna try and lift as heavy as I possibly can do. Now, when it comes to food, I don't do anything drastically different. I eat the same foods which I always eat. I just eat less, obviously. But I do make a little tweak. I really do cut down on any kind of dairy, any kind of breads, gluten, and anything which is heavily processed, e.g. like a fruit and nut bar or a protein bar. I would often have every now and then like a protein bar, fruit and nut bar, because I like them, and as long as it fits my macros, it's usually fine. But in this case, no, because I don't want anything which is gonna cause any kind of bloat or any kind of inflammation, because that's gonna impact how well I look, okay, at the end of this week. I wanna look as tight and as trim and as healthy as possible. And also, you know, these protein bars and fruit and nut bars, they taste so goddamn good that when I have one, I just want to eat more. It triggers that sweet tooth within me, and that's not something which needs to be triggered when I'm on this amount of calories. So a lot of the carbohydrate sources are just complex carbs, slow releasing energy, which, you know, don't have a huge amount of sugar in. Also, when it comes to eating out, I just straight up don't eat out. It's just 1 week, I have to make that sacrifice. If I've got any offers, I just say, no, sorry, I'm doing a thing, leave me alone. The reason behind this is, if I am eating out, it just means that I won't be able to track, I don't know where I am, don't need to eat more, don't need to eat less. I'm all over the place, and it kind of just throws me off track a little bit. You know, if I'm productive, I'm having a good week, I know where I'm at, that can just put a spanner in the works, and then I'm like, I don't really know if I should be eating less or more. So I just don't do that. Now, if I reflect through how the week went, I stuck to the calorie intake and macros as much as I possibly could do. It went alright. Obviously the first few days were fine because I'd been eating normally beforehand, but it was near the end of the week when I was really starting to struggle. So I started this on Monday, and I remember it was like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it started to get tough. The one thing which was really tough for me was sleep. Every time I drastically cut calories, I have like a restless sleep. I keep waking up. That's my body telling me you need to eat. So that wasn't ideal. There was one point where I woke up at 5 in the morning and I needed to eat something because I was losing the plot. The sessions were fine actually, to be honest. Obviously I wasn't feeling as strong as usual, but it's not like I was a little kitten. Cravings weren't too bad, obviously, because I had kept my carbs high, and I usually know how to space out my meals to kind of keep me satisfied. And yeah, I feel as though I look at my condition, I compare the two clips, obviously I took a before and an after, I definitely leaned up quite a bit. quite a lot actually, considering what I looked like beforehand. I looked a lot trimmer, a lot leaner, a lot tighter. Obviously I felt a little bit smaller. I'd lost about 2 kilos. This is the first time in ages I've been below 90 kilograms. It's been a very long time since I've seen that on the scale, so that was a bit of a shock. But a lot of the weight which you do lose, at 2 kilograms, it's not going to be pure muscle. A lot of it is water and just depleted glycogen levels because I'm not eating as much as usual. So that was quite a good prep up in the lead to Ibiza. Now, I guess the question is, well, what would have happened if you continued to do that, right? So what if I continued to eat 2,650 calories? Obviously, the rate of fat loss wouldn't be as much compared to the first week. So with each progressive week, I would burn less and less fat. I would basically be a lot leaner, but a lot smaller. I would be a smaller, leaner version of myself. So how much body fat can you lose in a week? To answer the question in the title of this video, it depends. Like many things, it depends on so many different things. I cannot give you a definitive answer, unfortunately. You just have to try it for yourself and measure the changes. I've showed you how I would go about doing it. You can try it out. Obviously, I've seen changes in scale weight. I've seen changes visually, before and afters, but does that really tell me how much body fat has been lost? Not really. I need some more high-tech equipment to be able to tell me that. I could have had a load of different body fat percentage tests done before and after, but I've done videos on body fat percentage readings. I've had them all done, and many of them are just kind of unreliable, so it's very hard to say, unfortunately. But either way, I hope you've enjoyed this video and it gives you a little bit of insight into fat loss and how much body fat you can lose in a week. So if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I absolutely nearly smashed that ending, but I messed it up, didn't I? Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you soon.